Hi, I'm Dawn and this is where Shabby meets Bling. Tonight, do-over. Hi, I'm Dawn and this is where Shabby greets Rustic. Tonight I'm going to be taking a slew of thrifted items and turning them into rustic and primitive decor. You are watching Rustic Wednesday, but on a Saturday? I'd like to thank my co-host Shelly from Repurposed My Way. You're going to find the link to her channel as well as the link to this playlist in my description box below. So I just got back from another thrifting trip and I found a lot of really cool, really unusual, random items. And this frame, I think, was the star of the shopping trip. She really caught my eye and of course I had to have her. She needs a little bit of help. She's over 100 years old. She's coming apart in a couple places and there's a lot of really just chipped paint everywhere. I got her for $3. Tell me you would have passed this by, because I know you wouldn't have. $3. As is almost always the norm, step one in rehabbing this piece is to give her a light sanding. And I'm being extremely careful because I don't want to sand out the detail. The detail on this thing is gorgeous. It's Art Deco and she's simply spectacular. So I'm being extremely careful. I'm just trying to knock off any paint that is loose. That's all that needs to happen here before I go to the next step, which is going to be painting. Of course it is. Painting is the next step, but I need to match it to something. What you're looking at here is nearly a century-old rail from a rail yard. If you take a look at the top of it, it might be hard to tell here, but it kind of has a silvery, bronzy color, and that's the color I'm aiming for. Now, this has been installed as a footrest in an establishment, and you can see the wood behind it, so you can see kind of the atmosphere, the feel that this piece needs to acquire when it's done. My painting process is beginning with this can of Rust-Oleum Auto Primer. It is a gray, a light gray, and I'm gonna hit every bit of this frame real lightly. I don't want to build up any kind of thick coating and I don't want drips. Very important. And primer, if you've ever used it before, automotive primer in particular, kind of has a powdery feel to it. I don't even know how to describe it unless you've used it. You'd know what I mean. So we'll have to make sure we dust off this powdery residue before we take our next step. And the next step was to hit it with a silver metallic spray paint. Then it's on to wax. This is an antique wax. It is from Walmart. It is Hello Hobby. If you look closely, you can see that the frame has a slight metallic little sheen to it. I just misted that paint. I did not want it to be a strong metallic, so it is very, very subtle, but it will blend beautifully with this antique wax. And I need to make sure that I get the entire frame and I get it well. I'm putting it on pretty darn thick because after this, we are going to sand it back. We need to see a little more of the gray and that metallic through the wax. There's enough of a coating here that I don't have to be worried about sanding out that beautiful detail in my frame. My frame is going to house a photograph, and I feel that most photographs should have mats. Well, this frame is going to have two different types of mats. It is going to have my lath, the vintage lath from my home, and it is going to get cut and it will get installed right on the inside of my frame. And I have to make sure that I get my cuts properly, so I'm using the chop saw to do so. I have measured and I am cutting all of my ends so that they will fit right together at a 90-degree angle on that little lip that holds the glass inside my frame. I will have glass as well, by the way. So these are being cut on a 45-degree angle. I'm giving all of my lath a brushing, just a brushing. You can't really scrub down lath unless it's been sanded, and I don't want to sand it. You saw what I'm trying to make this whole frame fit into, the atmosphere. So I want it rustic, and I want it snarly, and I want the little nail holes to show. That is the whole point. So a light brushing will do before we glue this into place. I am adding plenty of wood glue to the frame itself as I set my lath inside there. And I need to make sure none of this wavers or moves in any way, or my glass isn't going to fit in. So I'm very carefully making sure that all my parts are glued in here carefully. Once I've got them glued in and I have them placed exactly where I want them, I'm going to take just blue painter's tape. I really can't use clamps because of the very odd angles, and blue painter's tape is the way to go. It has served me well many times, not just for painting, people. So I am making sure that it's taped in here really well, and I will flip it over to double check that everything is still aligned properly, and then I'm gonna sit and let it dry overnight. I took 3 photographs, and now I have to decide between the 3 which one I'm going to choose to have printed. That frame is so large that I'm going to have it printed. I can't do it on my own photo printer. And this is the one I'm choosing to have printed. I am at Hobby Lobby in the framing department to pick out my mat. I am going to cut this mat myself. Hobby Lobby and other places do it for you if you wish, but I'm telling you, it's super easy. I'm not going to show it in this video, but I will at some point so you can see how easy it is. This is your choice of mats. They have a plethora, and I am going straight up with white because this is a rustic thing. I've got a lot of neutrals going on here, and white is going to make everything pop. So this is my mat I'm picking out. I just need to get it home and get it cut and frame up my photograph. I am sure you've all seen these metal spheres. They are really cool. And when I came across one while I was thrifting, I picked it up because I thought I'm gonna make something out of this for my garden. This is the sphere I found, and it was $2.49, and I found it at the Goodwill. I am going to use bits and pieces of a couple of things to create a garden finial. This is a base off of an old lamp that I took apart for one reason or another. And this is the top of a light fixture, and I bought it like this for $0.25 at my favorite resale shop. And I'm going to put these components together with this brass candlestick, and I'm going to make a garden finial. So step 1 is to disassemble my little brass. It's not brass, FYI. It's not. It's that tacky old 1980s brass look. So I am taking it apart, and I'm going to use part of it for this project and part of it for my next project. And I need it to be weighty, so I am going to use these components here, and I'm going to glue this part right on top like that. And then I'll add the little cup part that holds the candle on top of that. So it's time to assemble. But first, I need to give it a quick cleaning, and then I very lightly sand that wannabe brass thing. It wants to be brass. You're not brass, buddy, but we're going to give you a little bit of a sanding so my spray paint will adhere. Right now, I am checking my sphere because I put it in my rusting bucket, and you can check out my rusting techniques. I'll leave the link in the description box below, but you can see it has already started in a couple of places to rust. This is a natural rusting process. I don't know how far it will get, how rusty it will get before I actually have to show you in this video. So the process is not quick, especially with Galvy. I disassemble the one part because I don't need that threaded screw. I am using B7000 to glue all my components together because this will go outside. I will be gluing the weighted piece into the bottom later. And now we paint. We paint and we wait for the other thing to rust. So tick-tock, hopefully it's rusted. But I'm using a flat black Rust-Oleum to paint the top and the bottom of my little finial components. These are picture holders or card holders, however you want to look at it. I have made them and I have used them. I'll leave the links of those videos in the description box. But I was so happy with the one I made, I thought, hey, let's make another one. I picked up these old school clothespins at Goodwill for a couple of bucks. And I thought, man, these would be perfect to hold pictures or cards or maybe recipes. Baking season's heading our way fast. So first things first, I needed to make sure that I could get a wire inside of them. So I'm using my clamp because I don't want to drill my fingers. That's not good. So I'm clamping the heck out of these things, and then I'm going to take a drill bit and I'm going to drill a hole big enough that I can get a piece of wire in them. I'm using 9 in all, 9 of my little clothespins, because I work with uneven numbers. It's more pleasing to the eye. It's been proven. So I'm drilling out the bottom of 9 of these, and then we're going to wire them. I'm using a brown wire, and it's pretty substantial. And I made sure that the drill bit I used fit this little wire perfectly. And I'm gluing them in there with 3-in-1 glue. Just a tiny dab will do ya. Wasn't that a commercial? Little dab will do ya? I don't know. So just a little bit. I'm rolling around on the end of the wire, and then I am pushing it into the bottom of the clothespin. I really, really, really like this 3-in-1 glue. I tell ya, just a little bit, and it doesn't get all clunky like hot glue tends to. And I'm gluing all 9 of these. And then we're gonna work on the base. I'm using wood pile again. I love this stuff. It is inexpensive and the shapes that they have are pretty amazing. I'm going to be using one of these little miniature candlesticks, and I'm just picking out the best one out of the bag. And then I'm going to take a little wheel out of my wood pile kit, and I'm gonna glue that on top of there for a little bit more dimension. And I'm using wood glue. It's dry, but I can't attach it to that bottom part of my candlestick yet. I told you we were gonna use this thing again. I told you. I don't waste anything. Back to the wood pile kit, and just a little ball and a miniature little dowel rod. And this is gonna go through this hole, and then that's gonna get glued on there, like so. And I'll use wood glue to do it, and it will hold it nice and tight. But I'm going to have to drill a larger hole in the bottom of my little wheel so that that fits in there just like that, super snug. While the little ball and the dowel rod dry, while my glue dries, I'm gonna throw that base of that candlestick into my aging bucket. So basically, here's the 1980s in a box. That's all the junk that came off of that base of that candlestick. Ew. Ew. Goodbye, 80s. There she is, post-aging bucket. And now I can glue all my components together. And once again, I'm just using wood glue to do this. Just so you understand how this went together, there's a little peek at the bottom. Now for some flat brown Rust-Oleum spray paint. I'm hitting the candlestick a little harder than I am the base because I kind of like a little bit of that metal shining through, but since two different substances, I'm dealing with wood and metal, and the two pieces need to be married together. That's why I am painting them this dark brown. I am sanding the wood candlestick and the base, but I'm using a finer grit on the base, which is metal, than I am the little wood candlestick, because I want part of each to show through a little bit, because next I am going to go back to that antique wax, that Hello Hobby, and I'm going to hit this whole thing with that dark brown antique wax. Now I will arrange my little clothespin wires how I want them to lay. I want 5 in the back and 4 in the front, and I need to cut them so they will stand in that little candlestick the way I want them to. I line them up, I fan them out, I add a little bit of hot glue temporarily so I can get them kind of the way I want them. I actually put some cardboard in them so they're all going the right direction. Then I glue them into my candlestick. My rustic projects are complete and I'd like to share them with all of you. A sphere, an old candlestick, and a couple lighting parts become this. I sat it on 2 real old Purrington paver bricks. This is how she looks sitting in my garden. I put a little bit of moss and some hens and chicks inside. You can see that the sphere is starting to deteriorate that finish. She didn't get fully rusty yet, but I may take her inside. I have not permanently glued this piece, but I love the way it looks. And once that sphere is totally rusted, it will give me exactly the rustic look I'm aiming for. Now for our clothespin photo holder. This is what she looks like holding nothing. And I wanted to show you what it looks like this way so you can see the structure itself. I think it is just a nice little rustic piece with those old school clothespins. There's the base. I added a jute tassel bow and a little rusty star. But it looks pretty just the way it is, fanned out like that. It's just a nice decor piece. But if you want to really get crazy and use it, add something to it. I have added recipe cards. Let's face it, that time of year is coming close with the fall decor and the fall baking and Christmas baking, so why not use it? I've added a couple of my favorite recipes and some blank cards for new recipes to come. I think it's just adorable. And rustic in all the right ways. In the spring, I may make individual little clothespin holders for my garden to mark my new plantings. Here is that frame, all matted with a beautiful photo inside. Take a look at the frame itself and remember what that rail looked like. Now our 100-year-old frame matches that 100-year-old rail. And the print itself fits in to the atmosphere of this establishment absolutely perfect. This is where it hangs, in a place of prominence for everyone to see that enters this establishment, which is Spirit Water in Cary, Illinois. This has been another Rustic Wednesday, but on a Saturday. I'd like to thank my co-host, Shelly, from Repurposed My Way. You're going to find the link to her channel as well as the link to this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family and friends, anybody that loves rustic, primitive, or rusty decor. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, check out my shop on Etsy. Leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Don't forget to ring the bell for notifications of my upcoming videos. Subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.